Shalom. Yahweh Shem Yahushua Barakatham. Yahweh Shem Alatham Ba'ashem Yahushua. This is the Isupk. Started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York in 1969 under Commanding General Yohanan. We're here to teach the truth of the Bible for so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, the real history according to the scriptures. Now, of course, it is on Lashon Kodash Friday, Ancient Hebrew class. We got some stuff to go over real quick from the previous class, and then we're going to go into the next verse, Leviticus chapter 26. Last time we did verse 1. And this actually is starting off with a reiteration, or basically a restatement of the first and initial commandments. You understand? And that's why it's telling us la'ah, I mean, thou shalt not. When we read it in English, this is how we normally see it. When we hear it in Hebrew, when we read it in Hebrew, it starts off by saying no, and then it says the different things that we are not to be doing. So we're going to briefly go over this real quick. We'll erase it. We'll come back, and we'll be getting into today's lesson, which is going to be in the next verse. Hey, yo, Swatch, can you give me something to wipe down the board, Sean? I need like a rag or something. Verse 1 starts off like this. It says, La'ah ta'aishawa lakam. You shall not make for yourselves. Then it says, Allah yalam. Allah yalam. Now, why does it start off with this? It says, Allah yalam. This is saying a power of some sort, an idol, something that people give reverence to, something that people give life to, okay? This is what people do when they go to the Catholic Church. This is what people do when they idolize celebrities. They idolize rap stars. They idolize lifestyles of people that aren't the Lord, people that aren't in the position to give them something that is real strength. So it becomes Allah, which means power in the ancient Hebrew, Allah Yalam, which would mean idols. Okay, so keep that in mind, the word idol. Okay, and so La'ah ta'aishawa lakam Allah Yalam. Then it says wapasal. Wapasal. Now this is very much the same word in a different way. Okay. And what this means is a carved image. It also means an idol, but it's more specific. A carved image could be something like a statue, right? Something like an actual image, a painting, something that like a picture. And so this is where people get that stigma about photos being bad, photos and sculptures and things like that are bad. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you got to take down all the pictures in your house of your kids' graduation photos and you know what I'm saying, all the little pictures that y'all keep in the house of the family? It's not really necessarily what it means. What it means is something that you damn near give praise to, in the sense that you put it in a position that's more important than serving the Lord. Now, the issue that people have nowadays with crossing that line is that they don't serve the Lord, but they will serve their families. They will give most of their time and dedication to their passions that are outside of serving the Lord. And Israel is a nation of people that was tasked to serve the Most High, but our people become jealous by watching the other nations and having the freedom to do whatever they want without any punishment. Our people don't have that luxury because we get punished by not serving the Lord. We get punished by putting idols and carved images ahead of the Most High and the importance in what we do in our day-to-day lives. And it says, and a pillar shall you not lift up for yourselves. So it says, wa ma tazabah la'ah ta kwayamwa lakam. So it's saying, thou shalt not make for yourselves idols, nor any carved image, and a pillar. It says, you shall not lift up for yourselves. And then it says, a stone engraved. Now, this is even more specific. A stone engraved is going to be like, again, a carved image, something that is chiseled, something that is sculpted. You understand? And that's what it's telling us. It says, wa aban mashakayaf. Mashakayaf. So it says, la'ah ta kwayamwa lakam wa aban mashakayaf. La'ah ta nawa. It says, ba arak tazakam la ha shatach wath. So now it's saying, and it's continuing that thought that it starts off at the beginning of the verse. It says, "You shall not lift up for yourselves a stone engraved." It says, "You shall not set up in your land to bow down to it." So it's telling you, not only are you supposed to be setting up engraving stones and all these different idols that people have. I like to think, and one of the examples that really comes to mind is people that are just super obsessed with like comic books, that they have to have a picture of Superman, they got pictures of Spider-Man, they got all these different pictures, and it's all they talk about all day, every day, as if these are real people. You understand? They'll be on forum blogs, they'll be playing all the video games, they have all these different images of these things, and they give and dedicate a lot of their time and energy into bringing life into those things that are not actually real. That becomes a form of idol worship in a way. There's even people that, for the younger crowd out there, whenever you see a lot of these streamers, people that are playing video games, that they always get the collector's edition of a lot of video games. And what do they have? It's usually some kind of figurine, which is similar or akin to having an engraved stone, which is made out of plastics. It's made out of other materials nowadays to make it cheaper to make. But yet they have what damn near looks like a shrine behind them, because there's tons of them that just, again, they're obsessed with that. They're obsessed with collecting things like that. Don't let your hobbies become an obsession that takes you away from serving the Lord and making him the priority in your life. And so we have to be careful not to be enchanted by all these different, what you would say, enchanted by these different influences that can throw us off of the path of righteousness, that can throw us away from our actual real culture. Okay, so keep that in mind. It says, "La'a tatanawa ba aratazakam laha shathawat al ya." It says, "Kaya anaya Yahweh alahaya kam." It says again, "Kaya anaya Yahweh alahaya kam." And finishing off the thought, because it's telling you not to do these things, not to set up and lift up yourselves pillars, not to set up an engraved stone, not to bow down to it. It says, "For I, Yahweh, am your God." And that goes back to this word idol right here, where idol comes from the word Allah, Allah Yalam, right? The Most High is supposed to be Allahaya, Allahayam, are supposed to be our power, our source of influence, our source of joy. You understand? People find a lot of joy in entertainment. They find a lot of joy in the idols that they have on their walls. You understand? The photos that they have, the statues, the action figures. Hell, even little kids, they'll damn near go crazy if they lose their Batman action figure, or their Buzz Lightyear toy that has the lights that light up when you hit the laser button, and the wings that pop out, just like how it is on the movie. So they got the movies, they got the collector's items, they got the toys. It's a distraction from the fact that our real joy, our real purpose is serving the Most High. Now, I know that some people, that might sound corny. They're like, well, duh. Well, see, the thing is, when you're in the Christian church, you're not doing that, because you may show some kind of zeal for the Most High one day a week, but the rest of the week, you're not even thinking about the Lord. You're not even considering what he's got going on. You're not considering the prophecies that he's got unfolding across the earth right now, because you wouldn't much rather focused on what you got in your own inner circle, in your own little box of influence and your sphere of influence. So this is an important precept right here. This is the pillar. This right here is the foundation of all of the laws. Without understanding this scripture, you can't understand all the laws, because all the laws are there so that you can look to the Most High as your power, and not to the world, and not to the influences that are not the Most High. Let's go ahead and read it one more time, and we'll go ahead and erase it. Screenshot it if you haven't had the chance to screenshot it. Write it down, practice it in your notebooks. And you see how I got it color coded? I do that so that we can more or less easily kind of like go in between the two different understandings of what the root words are and what the full phrases are. Hey, Sawad, you know what happened to the markers that were over here? we had more markers. I don't have a black marker over here. It's supposed to be here. Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, I would say, man, Bo Kushak, did you check? I just want to make sure I have what I need. Okay, let's read it one more time. So it says La the Aishawa. Oh, did you find it? Muslim Christ. What? Yeah, that'll work. The Aishawa, Lakum, Allah Yalam, Wa Pasal, Wa Matazaba, Taqwayamwa, Lakum, Wa Aban, Mashako Yas, Tatanawa, Ba Aratazakum, La Hasha Thakwas, La Hasha Thakwa, Ilaya, Kaya, Anaya, Yahweh, Alahayatam. And again, what we said was, not you shall make for yourselves idols or carved images and a pillar. Not you shall lift up for yourselves a stone engraved. Not shall you set it up in your land to bow down to it. For I, Yahweh, am your power, your God. And it's pretty straightforward. Then Leviticus 26 starts off like that. And then we're going to go into the next verse, which is going to be, of course, verse 2. Let me go ahead and pull that up here, and we'll use the interlinear Bible app so that we can get that, okay? Leviticus chapter 26. Go to the interlinear version. It may have it abbreviated as INT, but it is not talking about the international version, which is, of course, one that the Christian church uses. We're talking about the interlinear that shows the Hebrew next to the English. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this. This is again from last week's class. I believe it was last week's class or the week before. And so if you want the full breakdown of this, definitely tune in to our classes, or you can find it in our archives on both Facebook and YouTube from last Friday. Let's see. So we're going to get straight to it. Leviticus chapter 26, and go ahead and go to verse 2. And again, when we look at the Bible, people look at the Bible and they see stories, but it's not just a history book, it's a book of law and a book of prophecy. And when we look at these laws, don't think of them as suggestions. When you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you have to look at the Bible as if they are direct orders from God, your power. You understand? So pay attention to what he's saying right here. This is Leviticus. I literally just erased this and wrote the same thing. Leviticus 26 and verse 2. It says, Ta, which technically means you, but it doesn't even have it right there. Sha, Bath. Ta Shamarwa. Ta Shamarwa. Wa ma quad. Wa ma quadashia. wa ma kwadashya. Ya ra'awa. Ya ra'a. Ya. Ya how. Now, before we start breaking it down, let's go ahead and read it in the Hebrew, get some practice in. We're, of course, during the Sabbath services. It's funny because this scripture is about the Sabbath. When we read during the Sabbath services, we're typically using the Assyrian Hebrew, which is the Hebrew on the right side, because a lot of electronic devices use apps, and those apps don't use the ancient Hebrew. It's not as very commonly known. But I like to get plenty of practice in with ancient Hebrew, which is closer, of course, to our original Hebrew, at least that we know that it may actually be the closest to what our original Hebrew was. And so practicing the reading is important. We'll make corrections as we break it down if we need to, but for the most part, it should be quite understandable. Ata Shabbath Thaya Ta Shamarwa Ta Shamarwa Wama Kwadashya Wama Kwadashya. Then it says Ta Yara'awa Ta Yara'awa Ta Yara'awa. Then it says Anya Yahweh. This may be Anaya, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Anya Yahweh. So what is he saying? Again, we'll read it one more time real quick. Ata Shabbath Thaya Ta Shamarwa Wama Kwadashya Ta Yara'awa Anya Yahweh. Almost like it rhymes. Hebrew is a very very fluid language. It's very direct and to the point, but it does have a certain flow to it when you read it, especially as we get better and more fluent with it. Technically, ata means you. Okay, it doesn't say it in the translation, but that is what that says. It says you, so it's the direct order to you, and it says my Sabbaths, my Sabbaths. Now it says Shabbath. We know Shabbath is going to be the root word here. Sabbath is Shabbat. Shabbat. Notice that it doesn't say Shabbat. It does say Shabbat. Just like how Sabbath has a th at the end. Shabbat. Now it says Shabbatayah. So technically, if you just say Shabbat, that should be correct. But it also says Shabbatayah. We know that Yah at the end, the possessive adjective, says me or my. So it is saying my Sabbaths. So we're looking at this and understanding that the modern Hebrew adds more rules to the Hebrew. But the root word, understanding the root word and the possessive adjectives and prepositions is going to be what gives you the best understanding of these things, even when stuff like this pops up. Because they may pronounce this Shabbathath, but I say Shabbathayah, mainly because we understand the root word to be Shabbath. We start adding all these other rules, maybe get more advanced in that stuff later on. But right now, we need to understand the root words because we need to get the vocabulary down. So I don't find no issues there. Now, when we go to the next one, it says, you shall keep. You shall keep. The root word here is shamar. Shamar means to keep or to watch over. Okay. So it's saying, you shall keep. What is this that we see on the outside? We do see a wa on the outside. Okay. So what that means is the tha, where's it at? Tha shamarwa. And we know that these extra things that are added are these other phrases right here. Shabbath being the root word here, keep being the root word here. Next, we got the next part. It's my sanctuary. So again, we see the Yah at the very end. That tells us that it's belonging to somebody that's speaking. That's why it says ma kwadasha. Okay, ma kwadasha. Now it starts off with wa, which means and. But the root word here is kwadash. Kwadash, which means sanctuary, holy place, holy. And we know that that actually goes right along with what this is. Lashon Kodash, Kodash. You see it right here. Kodash, which means holy. Right here, sanctuary also is a word that is interchangeable for holy because this isn't a normal place. The sanctuary, like the school where we have right here, this school is a sanctuary. It's a holy place. You understand? And so this right here, what he's saying is, and my sanctuary. You shall keep my Sabbaths and my sanctuary. That's what he's saying. And my sanctuary. Wa ma kwadash yah. The yah makes it mine. Okay. The and makes it an addition to the previous thought. Wa ma kwadash yah. Let's read what we got so far. Ata shabbath yah tha shamarwa wa ma kwadash yah. Again, it's got a nice flow to it. Practice it again. Let's get used to how we say it. Ata shabbatha yah tha shamarwa wa ma kwadashya. Okay, now we got this phrase right here. Tha ya ra'awa. Tha ya ra'awa, which means reverence. This is a really good one. I want to make this one of our vocabulary words today. You're going to find this H3372. That's a good one. This right here means to fear, to revere, or reverence. And the way it's pronounced is Yara'ah. 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 So the root word is Yara'ah. It's this. So what he's saying is reverence. Now, if I'm going to make this perfectly clear, you can very easily go with the other definition, which is to fear, which means fear, reverence, respect. All of these are interchangeable. They mean very similar things. Reverence just means fear or respect. You reverence your father when you were young because he'll ring that bell and he'll whoop you if you don't follow what he says. You'll reverence your mother at the supermarket if you keep grabbing stuff off the shelf and she give you that death pinch on your elbow. You know what I mean? You'll learn how to reverence your parents, but you need to learn how to reverence the Most High. He's telling you to keep his Sabbaths, and to keep his sanctuary. Like this brother right here, cleaning the school, wiping things down, is keeping the sanctuary. When brothers attend the Sabbath service, that they read the Hebrew, that they send up the prayers for the nation of Israel, that's keeping the Sabbath. This shows the fear and respect and reverence of Anya Yahweh, which is what the Most High is saying right here. He says, I am Yahweh. And this is implied, am Yahweh. Now, why does he say that at the end? Because he's making it directly known to you that it is the order from the Most High. It's written in a book that man wrote. That's true. But the Most High says in the scriptures that he moved the spirit of man to collect these words to come together, and that's what creates Santa Biblia, the Holy Bible. Okay? And so that's why it's important for us to come back to our culture, to keep the sanctuary, to keep the Sabbaths. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be that complicated, Israel. It really doesn't. But it really comes down to how much effort are you willing to put in, even at the end of your work week, even when you clock out, because we're so quick to find idolization in other things that keep us entertained, whether it be Netflix, whether it be YouTube, whether it be hobbies and sports and all these different things that we put in front of the Lord, the point where to damn it to the point where it becomes almost like as if we are idolizing those things. And so we're walking a very dangerous line between entertainment and obsession, because all it does is distract us from our real purpose, which is keeping the Most High's laws, following the orders that He gives us, remembering the words that He tells us. And so when we read this in the Lashwan Kodash, it's perfectly explaining exactly what our path is supposed to be. We're not supposed to divert from that path. We're not supposed to come up with our own interpretation of what that path is. We just have to follow it and be obedient to the Most High. Okay? That's what our goal is in the Isupk and the Commanding General Yohana. And of course, the 7 elders who established the school, and the brother that broke away from every other influence and distraction to come up with this truth, Abba Bivens, is what the whole purpose of it was, so that we can fulfill this order. You understand what I'm saying? An order without any kind of distraction. These orders, these Sabbaths, this altar, this sanctuary, this school is supposed to be a safe haven from all the other distractions out there. Those distractions are to be stayed away from this place, and that's what keeps it separate. That's what keeps it a sanctuary, Kodash. Okay, that's what keeps it holy. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another verse today. We got a little bit of time here. We'll keep the class moderately short. It may not even go over an hour. We might keep it a little bit under an hour. But I wanted to at least do 1 or 2 verses. And so this next verse, which is going to be verse 3, it's let me see. I mean, I really would like to. That would be nice to do verses 3 and 4. But we'll at least start with verse 3 and then see where we're at after that. It says, Ama. Let me see. It says, Ba ka kwathya. Ba ka kwathya. Ba ka kwathya. Then it says Talakwa. Talakwa. This tells you right here, because this is actually saying you walk. Talak would be walk. So when we come over here, we see Shamar Wa. The Y at the end is where we're adding the U. And so again, instead of making all these complicated adjustments to try to implement this Wa into this vocabulary word, we're going to keep the root word as itself, pronounce this as it's supposed to be, and thus keeping the language simplistic as it originally was supposed to be in the first place. So again, it's Falakwa. Then it says Ra'ath. Oh, it's like a Wa'ah. I think it's Wa'ath. Hold on. Yeah, Wa'ath. Moving on, it says Ma Tazawathya. This is a very important word. It's probably going to be a vocabulary word. Ma Tazawathya. Ma Tazawathya. Ta Shamarwa. There goes that Shamarwa again. Ta Shamar. What? Shamarwa. Wa I Shayatham. Wa I Shayatham. A thumb. A thumb. Let's go ahead and read it first, and then we're going to break it down word by word. So it says bakaquathia, bakaquathia, thalakwa, thalakwa, and then it says wa'ath, matazawathya, matazawathya, thashamarwa, thashamarwa, wa'aisha yathum, wa'aisha yathum, a thumb. So again, just reading it straight through. Bakaquathya, thalakwa, wa'ath, matazawathya, thashamarwa, wa'aishayathum, a thumb. Let's go ahead and break that down. Let's get the English. Let me add some more vocabulary words to it. Okay. Might have room for one more verse, but I really would like to get the fourth verse on here, at least in the next class for sure. What he's saying right here, he says means if. Okay. That's just the root word straight up. If it says bakaquathia. Bakaquathia. The root word here is kakwa. Kakwa. It's technically this. Minus the tha, because kakwa doesn't include the tha right there. But it's here because of the way it's structured. So again, it says in my statutes is what it's saying. In my statutes. With the root word being hakwa. Hakwa. Actually, it's quath in this case, with the ya at the end, making it my, okay, because he's saying it. Ba just means in or to, okay? So it's saying ba kakwathia, okay? Straight up. Now he's saying you walk, root word here again is halak, halak. But now it's saying thalak because again it's some kind of stuff going on there with the rules. And so thalak wa, okay? Thalak wa, where he's saying you walk. So he's actually changing the, what is it? The ha to a tha because he's saying you walk. The root word being halak, or in this case thalak, which is walk. Wa'ath, and technically wa does the job just as well, but it's saying wa'ath because that's the full, I guess the full separate word for that. Because it's not technically tying it to the walking, it's actually bringing this up right here. Ma tazawathya, my commandments. This is an important word. It's going to be our vocabulary word today. H4687. H4687. What this word means is commandments. Or precepts. And that is ma taza wa. Ma taza wa. So it's pretty much this right here. Ma taza wa. Ta shamarwa. And this again is showing right here the word keep. Ta shamar. The root word is shamar, just like before. That's not changing. But one thing that we see is that tha showing up right there, right there, right here, and right here, because this is being directed to somebody, specifically you. When you're the intended audience as you're reading this, though it's the Most High speaking, and he's speaking of things that belong to him, his statutes, his commandments, but because it's being directed at you, that's actually showing us the tha. Now, it's in different places in different spots, sometimes at the beginning of the phrase and at the end of the phrase. So we won't write it as a rule up here because we're actually seeing examples where it's added in the root word as a replacement and not outside of the root word. So we won't write that on the board, but we will keep an eye on how this shows up in different examples with different vocabulary words. Ta shamarwa, which means keep. Says, if in my statutes you walk and my commandments keep, with the you being implied, and we can say that safely because we do see the tha shamarwa. Okay. Ta shamarwa. Let me see. Now we go into this one right here. Wa aisha yatham. Wa aisha yatham. So again, we actually see the wa right here, but the root word is aisha. Aisha, which technically this with a ha at the end. Yatham is again saying ya. So something is being said here. It says, and perform them. Perform. Notice how it says wa aisha yatham. Thumb is usually something that we see, just like how similarly yam or thumb is added to make something plural, right? This is a performance that is not just one thing. So it says and perform, but it's implied that that performing is not for one thing because this is a multiple thing. There's more than one commandment. There's more than one statutes. There's more than one precept. There's many of them. There's many laws. And so by implying that, this word perform right here, we would think of performing something as a one singular task, but because it's saying aisha yatham, that is actually explaining why it's saying it the way it is, because when you look at the rest of the sentence, it's telling you that the performance is for more than one thing. And then atham means them or you all. When we say atham, that means plural version of something, okay? Not a tha, but a thumb, whether you're addressing multiple things that are being done or multiple people, okay? That's where the thumb comes into play. And the root word is actually that whole thing. So that right there is going to be our lesson for today. But in the next class, we're going to add the fourth verse, which is going to give us the result because it's asking you, it's telling you, my bad, if you walk in the Most High statutes and his commandments and you keep and perform them, then the result is going to be verse 4. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next class. But we're going to go ahead and read through, okay, one more time, the two verses that we wrote down today. This is Leviticus chapter 26, verses 2 through 3. And again, it says, Ata Shabbataya Ta Shamarwa Wa Ma Kwadashya Ta Ya Ra'awa Anya Yahawa it says Bacha Kwathya Thalakwa Wa'ath Ma Tazawathya Ta Shamarwa Wa Aisha Yatham Atham. Take a moment to screenshot that, get that logged in, lock that in, practice it. Again, this is the kind of class where taking notes is essential. You want to, like, if it were me and I was a student that was consistently coming to the Hebrew class, I would have a separate notebook, a spiral notebook that is just for the ancient Hebrew classes. I would have a table of contents that would give a reference to what classes we go over so that we can go and, of course, number each page in the spiral notebook so that you can quickly flip to whatever you wanted to recover, whether it was one of our prayers or specific verses that you wanted to do in the Hebrew so that you can get some practice in. You want to do that as much as possible. You want to try to organize your notes And of course, practice. That's the main thing, right? Getting the notes in, practicing, having just a dedicated spiral just for the ancient Hebrew wouldn't be a bad move. Would really help brothers and sisters really lock in and get more vocabulary words under their belt to start memorizing a lot of this. Some of the vocabulary words we went over today, Yara'ah, which means to reverence or to fear. Ma Tazawah, which means commandments or precepts. Let's go ahead and read through it one more time, and then we'll go ahead and close out the class on that. Ata, Shabbataya, Ta Shamarwa, Wa Ma Kwadashya, Ta Yara'awa, Anya Yahawa, Am Ba Kwathya, Ta Lakwa, Wa'ath, Ma Tazawathya, Ta Shamarwa, Wa Aisha Yatham, Atham. And that's an example of one of our Hebrew classes. I hope y'all got a little bit out of that, a little bit of practice. My apologies for my terrible handwriting, but at least the Lashon Kodash is pretty straightforward on how it's written, so you can't really get that wrong. But this again has been Leviticus chapter 26, verses 2 and 3. We went over verse 1 in the previous class. We want to continue further in the chapter because there's some really heavy scriptures I want to go over that have some really good context in the Hebrew that was going to kind of really flesh out what the Most High is saying in this and reiterating the commandments that he's given us. All right. So with that, and again, let me just go ahead and break it down. We read it in the Hebrew twice. What again it's saying is, you, my Sabbaths, you shall keep, and my sanctuary you shall reverence. I am Yahweh. If in my statutes you walk, and my commandments you keep and perform them. We're going to get into verse 4 next time. It's going to clarify the result of if we keep the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments. And with that, this is the Isupk to start out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, in 1969 under commanding General Yohana. We're here again to teach the truth of the Bible to so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians are the real Israelites according to the scriptures. With that, shalom, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Barakatam to all the brothers, Yahweh Shemar Alatan Bahashem Yahushai to all the sisters. Shalom.